session on employee costs as a percentage of turnover. So the formula for employee costs as a percentage of turnover is perhaps the easiest to remember because it's in the name. Employee costs divided by turnover times by 100. Employee costs as a percentage of turnover. Now, where we find turnover, you'll find that on the income statement because another name for turnover is, of course, revenue. On the other side, employee costs, well, there's different types of employee costs. Perhaps the major employee cost will be salaries or wages. But you can also have employee costs such as training. If you're looking to develop your staff and help their growth in their career, then training will be an employee cost. And also recruitment and selection. The entire process of recruitment and selection will be an employee cost. Now, when we think about each of those deeper, it's really important to think about this formula as being very useful for chains of analysis to help you expand your points. Now, if you're thinking about, number one, salaries and wages, well, that's likely in a labour-intensive business to be a predominant cost. And you're likely to have high employee costs if you're a labour-intensive business, as opposed to a capital-intensive business. So a labour-intensive business will have high employee costs, and therefore its employee cost as a percentage of turnover is likely to be a bigger number. Now, number two is training. Well, training, if you look to increase your labour productivity, for whatever reason you're trying to increase your labour productivity, get more output there, then you might put training in place, and that's clearly going to increase your employee costs and therefore bring up your employee costs as a percentage of turnover. Again, very useful for analysis. Now, the third one, you're thinking about recruitment selection here. Let's say a business has a very high labour turnover rate. If you've got a high labour turnover rate, it's likely to lead to higher recruitment costs, leading to higher employee costs, leading to a higher employee cost as a percentage of turnover. Now, other things to think about with this is, well, generally, yes, you're likely to want to have a lower employee cost as a percentage of turnover. That indicates better efficiency in your business in managing your labour costs compared to your revenues or your turnover. But you might want to question if the employee cost as a percentage of turnover number is too low, because if it's too low, it might be a concern. It might suggest that you're paying very low salaries and wages, maybe below the industry average. And that could have an issue for you for quality. And also you might want to think about, if it's very low, maybe the root cause of that is training. There's not much training. You're not looking to develop your staff for the future. That could have creativity problems. That could have innovation problems for your business. And also it can have an impact on labour productivity. So I hope that helps on employee cost as a percentage of turnover. Shout out to my year 13s. I'll see you at the next sesh.